the decision to increase the money for political parties was a decision arrived at during an IPOD meeting in Munyonyo. The parties that went there, DP, UPC, and GEM, they requested President Museveni to increase the money and also proposed the formula. Museveni agreed and assigned the Prime Minister to ensure that that proposal is implemented. So what government did was to remind Parliament that this government made this undertaking during an IPOD meeting. But the formula was not followed. The formula that had been agreed in that meeting of President Museveni and other parties was that 10 billion shilling will go to IPOD and IPOD will use it. 10 billion shilling will be shared by the parties equally. 10 billion shilling, 15 will be shared according to numerical strength. But that's the meeting they had in Munyonyo. Trouble with informal meetings, the decisions of informal meetings are not easy to implement, because what is IPOD? IPOD is not a statutory body, and that's why money had to be sent to Electoral Commission. So if this had been IPOD's money, you should have sent it to IPOD, but IPOD is not a government institution. Even to receive money would be illegal.
IPOD is the inter-party organization for dialogue. It is a platform which brings together Ugandan political parties with membership in the Parliament of Uganda. By the time I became president of DP, IPOD was already in existence. The founder members of IPOD are the Forum for Democratic Change, the Democratic Party, Conservative Party, the National Resistance Movement, GEMA, and UPC. The initiative called IPOD was a result of exchange visits that the leaders of Ugandan political parties made to Ghana, Malawi, and Zambia, where they found that apart from the formal institutions of the state where parties have representatives, there should be another clearinghouse where dialogue takes place on a number of issues. So IPOD was formed. Through the meetings of IPOD, the funding to political parties was actualized. Before IPOD, the funding was only in the books, in the constitution and in the law. There was never any budget. It is the discussions in IPOD that turned the idea of funding political parties from a theory to a practice. Through IPOD, that funding has been increased. For instance, last year,
sorry to cut you short. When was the first time the funding was initiated?
It was after the 2011 elections. And the figure had remained at 10 billion. But in the last 3 years, we started discussions in the IPOD summit to increase the funding to ensure that money is allocated for the running of headquarters and for the paying of staff. That is how a supplementary budget amounting to 35 billion was presented. And that supplementary budget was clearly captioned as support to political parties under IPOD.
So was it right for Parliament to indicate that this money was supporting the political parties under IPOD arrangement?
I think that was, looking back, I think Parliament made a mistake. The word IPOD should have been deleted completely. If it was money for political parties, it should have been appropriated under the Political Parties and Organizations Act. Unfortunately, I think, and I want to admit, because I was in Parliament, we made a mistake to include the word IPOD, because it has caused unnecessary confusion.
Okay. So, FDC received its share.
Yeah.
According to the Political Parties Act.
Yes. We did. We received 1.7 billion shilling because that is our numbers in Parliament. That money is divided according to the number of MPs you have in Parliament. And we accordingly received ours.
Political parties, under the Political Parties and Organizations Act, Section 14 thereof, provides that parties that have a representation in Parliament are given funding. It's Parliament that appropriates this money. This money, I've had some people confusing themselves and others, saying it is IPOD money. This is not IPOD money. IPOD is a club that was formed. Those who want to join the club, it's okay, but you don't force people to be part of a club. We shall not be forced to be part of that club. IPOD has been around for over 10 years. What does its report card look like? People are still tortured, elections are rigged and so on, you know. So if they're saying now they're opening a new chapter, IPOD will be relevant, we wish them well. Discuss whatever you discuss. If it turns out to be good for the country, all of us as a country shall thank you, but don't force anyone to be part of IPOD. So this is not IPOD money. This is money appropriated by Parliament. And this money is to be used to run political party activities, open offices across the country and run the different activities. And it is audited. The Auditor General comes and audits, you know. So I learned that it was released, or it is about to be released, whatever the case might be. Eventually it will hit the account and it gets to do this work. And this money is audited by the Auditor General to see to it that it does exactly what it is meant to do.
Even those who may not, I don't think anybody hates the idea of IPOD. I just think some people can't stand the person called President Yoweri Museveni. I have never taken the criticism of IPOD as a criticism of the idea of IPOD. I just think there are people who feel like they will lose their political base if they are seen sitting with President Museveni, and they understand.
Why does FDC shun IPOD summit?
No, we have only refused to be part of meetings with Mr. Museveni. But we attend meetings of IPOD. And IPOD is not about Museveni. If IPOD ever tells us that it is about Museveni, we can as well leave IPOD. Because we say they will not attend meetings with Museveni, except if that meeting is going to discuss the transition from Museveni to a transitional government.
So how will this be rectified now that Parliament, it was on oversight? And
I think Parliament is making a very big mistake. The Political Parties and Organizations Act creates a fund for political parties and the Electoral Commission, and we should only pass money under that arrangement. If Parliament wants to pass over money to any other organization, then the law must be amended. And even when the law is amended, that money can only be passed to the Political Parties Forum, which is in the law, not to an NGO, really. That will be breach of the Budget Act, that you pass over money for formal institutions that are registered to a non-registered, because where did the IPOD register?
Do the development partners like Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy still fund IPOD?
The Netherlands Institute for Democracy are the ones who introduced IPOD here. But the kind of funding they have been giving to IPOD is very minimal. Training of women, training of youth, buying of a computer, and paying an administrative secretary at the headquarters of political parties. That's all that they do. Sometimes sponsoring trainings outside the country. So it is not a lot of funding. And that's why IPOD, when they were in Munyonyo, wanted 10 billion.
Political parties account, because like I've said, the Auditor General audits every political party to see that this money has been used to run the activities of political parties. And the Auditor General is a government employee. So the Auditor General will come and audit and release his report. There is no money for IPOD we've ever received because we don't belong to IPOD. Okay? We are meant to be funded because we, according to the Political Parties and Organizations Act, Section 14, we have representation in Parliament. So Parliament appropriates this money. Like I'm saying, I've been seeing on social media that either they have released or they're about to release. Eventually, it will hit the account, you know, because there are processes.
Uganda is not the only country where political parties are supported by government. In Tanzania, it is the same. In Kenya, it is the same. Even in Ghana. In Ghana, there have been changes the ruling party sometimes loses. So I don't think there's a logical or causal relationship between public funding of political parties and the failure of opposition parties to win. It is simply important for political parties to reorganize themselves, but more importantly, the environment should be conducive to the growth of political parties. In Uganda, the environment is hostile to democracy. I wouldn't blame money for the failure. I would instead say, if you have a law like the Public Order Management Act, which basically restricts the organization of political activities, how then can you peacefully remove the government in power through elections? Number two, the role of the security forces in politics. An election day in Uganda looks like Ukraine now. You would think there is an invasion of the villages. It is important for us to get the military out of our politics. In some countries, there can be an election and you will not even know that there has been an election. The other thing we need is the bribery that is perpetrated by the NRM. You have seen cases where NRM candidates have lined up voters and just started dishing out cash. You have seen how public funds under so-called budget for presidential donations are tactically used around elections to influence voting trends. That's what I mean when I say the environment has got to change.
So first things first, could you kindly justify the current funding of political parties in Uganda?
The funding of political parties is provided for in the law that governs political parties, the Political Parties and Organizations Act. And when you come to section 14, it talks about public funding for political parties. So I think it's on that basis that when government is making the budget, the relevant ministry of finance makes provision for funding of political parties. And the law is clear on who should benefit. We have a database of about 29 registered political parties. The law gives you the direction on who should be funded. Those are the political parties which have representation in parliament.
How do you determine, as Electoral Commission, how do you determine the numerical strength of these political parties having representation in parliament?
So the law also talks about it prescribes a formula for giving money, for providing funding. And when we come back again in the same section 14 of the Political Parties and Organizations Act, it is very clear that parties are funded on the basis of their numerical strength. And this is at parliamentary level. So we organize elections. Of course, when you organize elections, you know that Party A has returned 50 representatives. That is members elected members who subscribe to that political party. Then you know that Party B has sent in 70 representatives. Then of course you know that Party C has so many candidates. So you come back to that, and that's the formula that's used. So the money that is provided by the ministry is given out following a formula which is set in the law. That is numerical strength, the number of representatives who subscribe to the particular political party. So if a political party has one member, then you come back to a formula and you use that, and that's what we use when we're giving out this money as the Electoral Commission.
There are those political parties which are not represented in parliament. Where does this law leave them?
So the Political Parties and Organizations Act is clear, and it says that the parties to be funded are those which have representation in parliament. So other political parties remain legal entities. They are registered in law, and they can organize and participate in electoral activities and other aspects of governance. But for purposes of this funding, the law is very clear that the beneficiaries, the parties to benefit, are those that have representation in parliament. And that's what the Electoral Commission does. That is compliance with the law.
When were the last funds disbursed?
Every financial year, government provides for funding of political parties. And even this year we received funding, and we've been giving out the funding as it comes through quotas. The last time that we sent out money to political parties was in February this year.
So it will hit the account and it will be utilized for the purposes for which it is meant, and the Auditor General will audit and give his annual report.
I think for us as Electoral Commission, we are concerned about money that is given to us to pass on to political parties, because we register political parties and we have a relationship with them which is regulatory in nature. There are certain obligations and that's required of them, and compliancy, and we make sure that they do comply and meet specific provisions of the law. It's the same with their funding. Our concern is public funds, funds which are drawn from the consolidated fund, funds that are indicated and provided for in the budget. That's where we are involved. We receive the money, we pass it on, and the rest of the processes, including accountabilities, are done also through that structure. Now, concerning how parties organize when they're in the parliament and form associations, or like, for example, bodies that bring them together like IPOD, is a matter that we cannot comment about as Electoral Commission, because we do not manage that program. It is another arrangement that exists between willing parties which have representation in Parliament. But on our part, our task and our job is to make sure that those parties that have representation in Parliament are funded, and when their money comes, we pass it on to them.
Okay, why I asked about this question, Electoral Commission was silent, or is silent, when there are some political parties which are at loggerheads.
The law for political parties provides for a forum where issues between political parties can be addressed, especially when they are parties by nature all competing for power. But there are issues that could come up in the course of their pursuit of power, which requires a dialogue, and the law provides for that. That's why the law establishes the National Consultative Forum. So the Electoral Commission has a secretariat for the National Consultative Forum, and when a matter is brought up for the secretariat, for the forum to discuss, it is discussed, and members go, or rather are brought on board, and issues are handled and resolved. Electoral Commission, and I must say, Electoral Commission is constrained to talk about IPOD, because IPOD is outside our mandate. We do not have authority over IPOD. But at the same time also, there is a limit of our involvement with political parties. Other than requiring them to be compliant and accountable, sometimes in the course of pursuit of political advantage, the parties can engage in a lawful engagement or discussion or dialogue, even when it looks like this needed the intervention of the Commission. No, it doesn't look like that, and the law doesn't provide that. So our interest is that political parties follow the law, and the platform for resolving issues is the National Consultative Forums, where actually all parties are represented, including those that do not have representation in Parliament.
Do you wait for such matters to be brought to EC, or you can pick interest as Electoral Commission?
Electoral Commission cannot intervene or come and tell parties how to conduct their business. Where we are involved with them, it is stated clearly in the law. Where parties or political leaders have their issues and they're out there in the public, that becomes another matter. Parties have structures. When parties are being registered, we require them to meet certain standards. And parties have structures, including where they can resolve conflicts or other issues. As the Electoral Commission, we cannot take over management of political parties. That's outside our mandate. We can't come and say you're speaking badly, you're doing what. No, we require them to comply with what is in the law.
So apart from these political parties being audited by the Auditor General, does the Electoral Commission follow up on the funds disbursed on how it has been managed?
The Electoral Commission requires compliancy from political parties, including financial accountability. All parties, for that matter, because parties are required to provide regular updates on their status, and it's a wide range of issues that are laid down in the law. So when the money comes through Electoral Commission, of course, we have a responsibility. That already gives us a responsibility, and we require parties to provide accountabilities, which are then, audited by the Office of the Auditor General.
Okay, finally, recently there was a supplementary of 35 billion secured to Electoral Commission to fund these political parties. Has this been also used up, or?
The funding that we received in this quarter has been passed on. Like I said, the last payment that we made in this quarter was done on the 4th of February this year.
That includes the supplementary?
The funding that we got that is designated or clearly indicated for being for political parties was passed on to political parties.
With the Electoral Commission, that doesn't take decisions. You see, the National Consultative Forum is an umbrella of all registered political parties. I think they are about 37. 26. Some of them should have been deregistered long ago. And that's how a party like NUP came even into existence. I mean, where on earth can someone trade a party? That a political party has been sold to someone, and you saw the guy in the court complaining that he had not been given money, and the Electoral Commission, and you are there as a regulator. And someone says, no, this party has been sold to Honorable Kyagulanyi, a political party. So the Electoral Commission has not done its work, rendering the National Consultative Forum useless. Because do you want to go and attend a forum where political parties are being traded like commodities? So if the National Consultative Forum had been a credible organization with parties that abide by their constitutions, it would be a very good forum. But as it is today, it is just another forum like any NGO. What many people don't know, that political parties are independent institutions with competing interests. So the fight that you see is a normal one. In fact, if there was no fight, then we would not have political parties.
In the few meetings FDC has engaged with the other IPOD comrades, what achievements can you discuss with us?
You see, IPOD was brought here by the Netherlands Institute for Democracy. The idea was copied from Ghana. Under J. Rawlings was very dictatorial. But the Netherlands Institute persuaded him and other political parties in Ghana to come to a round table. And they discussed a constitutional framework that enacted the presidential term limits, which J. Rawlings respected. So therefore, the transition from J. Rawlings to the democracy that Ghana has was a negotiated one. So the Netherlands Institute for Democracy came to Uganda thinking that it is possible for Uganda to take the same avenue like Ghana did. Unfortunately for them and for us, we have a person in power who would want to die a president. So any arrangement that involves discussing Museveni handing over power is an arrangement that Museveni will not accept. So therefore, IPOD has failed on its major objective of causing a peaceful transfer of power in Uganda. It became like any other NGO, because we were invited by many NGOs to go and debate human rights, emancipation of women. That's all that they are doing, which is not bad, but the core objective of founding IPOD has failed 100%.
Okay.
You see, like we're saying, Mr. Museveni uses IPOD to sanitize himself. To say, look, you see, for me, I sit with people who oppose me, we take tea together, take pictures together, but there's no real tangible fruits that come out of IPOD. That's why some of us say we shall not belong to IPOD. The challenge, Mr. Museveni, he thinks everything is his. He says the army is mine. It's not the national army. He says it is mine. He says the money is mine. Forgets it is taxpayers' money. And so that's why he imagines this is my money. I think in his mind he thinks the salary Ssemujju earns as an MP, it is my money. But when did it become your money? You guys came here, you were broke, you had holy shoes with the holes, clothes, that were in tatters. You had nothing. But now we hear these people own many things, shopping malls, I don't know, Swiss accounts. We hear so many things. So for him to imagine this is my money, of course Ugandans know better.
I think those are hypocrites. if every money from government is Museveni money, then all those in parliament who earn salaries should be saying no to that money. Those who get money to buy cars, those who are moving around in government vehicles, you know, all the accountability committees are chaired by the opposition. Public Accounts Committee, Local Government Public Accounts Committee, COSASE, these are chaired by the opposition, and all of them have got vehicles with red number plates. The leader of opposition and the opposition chief whip, they all have facilitation. I think that is just cheap politicking, and no one should take that seriously.
The reason I am not DP is because there is something in DP that I don't want. And the reason DP is not, my colleagues in DP are not FDC, that there is something in FDC that they don't want. So we have similar but competing interests. And that's why they fight. Don't you see in Premier League, even players of the same country kicking each other and they are injured? Maybe someone will say that there is violence in the Premier League. They are competing interests, and I am not one of those who are bothered that political parties are quarreling. In fact, they should be quarreling every day. Our interests are similar but competitive.
Finally, do the, government funding political parties?
First of all, it is not government funding political parties. It is taxpayers. Government doesn't have money. It also collects money from the taxpayers.
But under the law, the political parties are institutions.
They are funded by the state of Uganda. Government is just one component of the state.
How can a layman understand this? They
need to, by the way, if they don't, that's where we go wrong. People who think that government has given them money. In fact, it is them who are giving government money. I even told the president when we are on TV together to stop that talk that this government has done this. No, it is taxpayers. You are just a manager.
How best can you differentiate this money from Museveni money?
Museveni doesn't have money. Museveni money is money he has realized as a result of sale of cows from either Rwachitura or at his other farm. But this is taxpayers' money. I pay taxes. You think my money that they deduct from my salary is Museveni's money? Each Ugandan surrenders part of his money to run the country called Uganda. It is not government, it's not Museveni's money, it is taxpayers' money.
We've had your fellow comrade, Norbert Mao, Chairman Mao, the DP president, saying that those people who say that this is not government money should instead stop getting money from the parliament and so on.
No, this money is taxpayers' money. Government is only a manager. You mean someone who manages NSSF, that money is NSSF money, is for Yaruhanga who manages NSSF. It is for the savers who take the money. So the money that Mr. Museveni and government manage is money contributed by every Ugandan. And there is nobody who will tell me that Ssemujju don't take a salary because they will think you are taking government money. Where? My father paid taxes before I was born. My mother pays. The people I represent in Chile here pay tax. They are the ones who are paying me a salary. Not Museveni, not even Parliament of Uganda. Parliament is just processing.
Finally, do you think this money has contributed to some extent in keeping the President Museveni in power?
Museveni is in power because he's a military man who uses a gun. Whether there is money or not, he has held this country captive for many years. So whether there is money in IPOD, whether there is no money, until the population raise up, you will still have Museveni, a military man, running the country at gunpoint.
So, under IPOD, do you miss your comrades in the opposition who have the requirements but did not subscribe to IPOD?
It is our prayer that they reconsider their decisions. We hope they join. We will never stop appealing to them to join IPOD. Why shouldn't they be there? There are very interesting discussions that take place there. There's a lot of confidential information which is shared in IPOD meetings, and I think leadership is about talking about the tough problems that we face together. So truly, we miss the FDC when they boycott the summit, yet they attend all the other meetings, and truly we miss NUP. I cannot pretend that we are happy that they are outside.
So, do they receive funds?
They receive funds. You have seen the release which was made. And they should receive funds. I have no problem with them receiving funds. I only have a problem with them receiving funds and then dissing IPOD.
This brings me to your recent...
But as the Honorable Mao, who is apparently a quiet student of our tactics, reminded me, we always make a distinction between the misleaders and the misled. Unfortunately, people have really neglected dialogue. I don't know why. It's a very big mistake. I even talked to Kony. I didn't want to talk to Kony, but when the people insisted, we said, okay. And the Honorable Jimmy Akena and the Honorable Mao were giving testimony that by talking, by agreeing to the talks, actually it helped a lot of people in northern Uganda to see who was who.
Ultimately, as the Uganda People's Congress, I want to see Uganda in a better place. And I'll do everything in my efforts to see that happen.
The president has a very big role to play everywhere, from Ghana to Nigeria. Remember the days of Obasanjo. Obasanjo even attempted to change the constitution to Zambia, from the days of Kaunda to Malawi. A sitting president has a very big role to play in democratization of a country. The big hindrance in Uganda is that Mr. Museveni does not want to give up power. After 36 years, he wants to continue. And that's why his party said you can be a candidate for eternity. So any discussion that you will have will be an attempt in futility. Because Mr. Museveni, and that's why as if this we said, we know those meetings with Museveni to hell, we will not come. Because the main subject matter he does not want to discuss. And that's why the country is where it is.
But already, when you have NRM, and then UPC comes, and then DP comes, and then JEMA. If you stay out, I don't know whether the mathematics is good for you. So, because I know Uganda very well. I know Uganda very well, that I think this is a good beginning, and I would invite all the others to come.
Apart from meeting during IPOD with President Museveni, do you as Chairman Mao meet President and exchange ideas in politics and so on such?
I have met President Museveni with other people to discuss development in the north. The only time when I discuss politics is under IPOD. But I can meet him to discuss, for instance, the implementation of the Juba Peace Agreement. And recently I called him to tell him to play a role mediating between the Tanzanian opposition leader and President Suluhu Hassan. I was happy when I saw President Suluhu Hassan meeting Mr. Tundu Lissu in Belgium. As a national leader, I think it is my duty, rather than shouting on television, in radio stations, and in rallies, if I have an opportunity to talk to any leader, I should talk to them. I started doing that when I was a student. I was 23 years old when I was guild president. We had a big strike in Makerere, and 2 students were shot dead. I decided to pick the phone and call State House. The person who picked the phone was currently the boss of the UNRWA. She was then known as Allen Kakuyu. She's now Allen Kajina. I called State House and requested that the president should meet a delegation of Makerere Students Guild. And that's how we solve some of the problems. I believe in dialogue. Those who don't believe in dialogue, that is their approach. Let's see whether they achieve. Everybody should believe in dialogue. Right now we are telling Russia and Ukraine, please talk. Why are we telling them? Because uncontrollable violence should be left to animals. Human beings should have dialogue.
Where did you get this slang, first of all, one man's army?
When I talk about one-man army, I meant like I alone had taken on social media goons that are allied to NUP. Of course, I have a very thick skin. These goons had chased every sane person out of social media. So I decided to take them on, and I'm still taking them on. I announced that this battle will take at least 2 years until we sanitize social media. So the one-man army analogy showed that everybody else was scared. I was the only one who had the courage to take them on.
What really went wrong?
There's nothing wrong. I am exercising my freedom of speech, and I think I need to let the NUP members know that they were conned. That's why when I published their certificate of registration, they were shocked because some of them thought NUP started in 2020. But how can a party of 2020 have a certificate of 2019? But the original certificate of Chibalama's party has never been made public. We only have a gazette notice of change of name. And I also released information that the original constitution of NUP has been tampered with. As a journalist, I challenge you to go and access NUP files. They will not show it to you because NUP is a project.
How did you access the files?
I accessed the file in my own way, which I'm not going to disclose. You know, Uganda is a porous country. There are panya roads. So I accessed the file through a panya road.
Chairman Mao, are you formally and rightly using your Twitter account?
That is my Twitter account. I established it myself, and nobody else has ever typed anything on my Twitter account. I don't have any person who manages my Twitter account. I manage it personally.
Are you well conversant with the language?
As you know, I went to Namilyango College, and I don't think you can challenge a Namilyango student on the use of English. I got a distinction 1 in English literature. I got a distinction 1 in English. I studied writing at Yale University. I'm a columnist for the Monitor, and a panelist on the Frontline, which uses English, unlike Barometer, which uses Luganda.
So somebody told me Chairman Mao was entrusted with these documents, but he's releasing them. Isn't that being hypocritical?
No, but these are public documents. These are documents that are filed. It is like if I released the company documents of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. It is not a secret. They are public documents. I'm not a public organ. I'm not like Electoral Commission. So I am serving the public. Actually, the public is very grateful. So if anybody is interested in secrecy, you should ask them why do they want these documents to be secret. A constitution is a public document. You know, one of the greatest battles in the world was in the Catholic Church because they didn't make the Bible public. Only the priest had the Bible. Then a man called Martin Luther came and said, you know, the Bible should be public. When the Bible became public, the Christians became critical. So by making NUP documents public, I hope NUP members will wake up and stop worshipping a celebrity.
So why now?
Why now? Because this is now the time when we are planning for real change.
What do you mean by real change?
Real change is the transition from President Museveni and the NRM to a new order. That's the real change.
So what was there before?
What was there before has been Ugandans getting excited. So this is no longer about excitement. So I've come out now because I have been provoked. It was never my intention really to engage in this battle. So it is a provocation that has led to this timing. And those who have provoked me they are there on social media.
Okay. You said you were going to take them on for 2 years?
At least 2 years. Should be more, actually.
Chairman Mao, preaching the gospel of hatred and unity, which one is beneficial?
I am the foremost apostle of unity. I ordered the expenditure of over 400 million shillings of DP money to promote unity. Those guys in Noop, we used to invite them to the reunion. They would not even buy a bottle of mineral water, but they would speak more than DP members. We thought we were building unity. So I'm an apostle of unity. I have never preached hatred. Why would I, for instance, talk to Joseph Kony, a man known for ordering mass killings? If I can talk to Kony, why can't I talk to anybody? So it is the Noop social media goons who are preaching hatred. Fortunately, we know a lot about them, and we are making that knowledge public, and that's why their high table is shaking now.
A while ago, you said you're a student of dialogue. Why don't you look for the Noop?
Actually, dialogue is going on Twitter. That is actually dialogue. Because they insult me, tell lies about me, I tell the truth about them. The audience is the Ugandans.
That is dialogue.
Dialogue is going on. Unless you are talking about a private dialogue. That one, when they finally get tired of insulting me, we shall have dialogue.
So, I want to understand who is a hypocrite in this nature. When you saw these actions being taken on, you were silent. Doesn't that seem...
I've never been silent. I have been talking privately to all the key actors. I have only spoken now publicly.
Sure.
Why would I be... I'm not known for silence, by the way. By nature, I can never keep quiet. But I don't talk publicly about everything. So I have only gone public to say this is a fake party. They had a delegates conference of only 11 people. In fact, tonight I'm releasing the name of the 11 people. 7 of whom were People Power, 4 were Chibalama and his companies.
Did you get angry when your colleagues from DP crossed to Noop?
I have seen people like Honorable Betty Namboze, who calls herself Madam Teacher. I would call her Madam Susu. She has been claiming that I'm bitter because they left. How can I be bitter? They have gone where their heart has always been. So their bodies and hearts are now united. It is a great occasion when people go where they feel they are happier.
So, Chairman Mao, has anyone in DP, apart from you, the president, has anyone engaged you to stop this?
No, they are not telling me to stop. They are telling me that they want to join. In fact, they are asking for more information. So many people have joined because the cause is right. 2 days ago, 7 members of Noop came to my house. I wasn't at home. But my children told me that these people have come to thank you, that now they can have some fresh air. Because when we talk about Noop, people don't want to listen. The Noop president is renting a corridor to his party at 4 million shillings or maybe more. Now, imagine if I had a house, I would give it to my party. Now, he gives a corridor for Noop to rent. So, these are the things I'm talking about, and Ugandans should know. Have you seen them disputing what I'm saying? They keep on saying Mao is a pumpkin, that Mao is paid by Museveni. That one now has no currency. They can say whatever they want about me. Ugandans are paying attention to the person with Buino. Because for once, the new people joined the party, they had never read the constitution of the party. Can you imagine?
Maybe just make this clear. Do we have political moles in Uganda?
I want to quote General Mugisha Muntu, who said, the real moles will be known in future. There are those who are accused of being moles. Then there are those who accuse others of being moles. but the real moles will be known. So it is a matter of time.
But you say you don't keep quiet when you hear something.
I said I don't keep quiet, but I don't go public about everything.
When should we expect to harvest the fruits of your struggle?
We are already harvesting. For once, journalists can talk about NUP and they are not insulted. I've actually liberated Twitter and Facebook. And I've given many people the confidence now to criticize that demigod in Kamocha. And finally, people are feeling free. So you are already harvesting the fruits. Ugandans are already harvesting the fruits. I am telling you, I'm getting calls even from NUP MPs who are saying, otutasiza. Everybody was afraid of talking about NUP. So now, let us now talk about Uganda. I just don't want masqueraders claiming that they are coming to liberate Uganda when they don't have the capacity. The failure to implement decisions. That is the biggest challenge we face in IPOD. The failure to implement electoral reforms, that was one big problem. The second problem is the issue of the Public Order Management Act. Under the IPOD summit, we agreed that the government should speed up the enactment of rules under the Public Order Management Act. The Public Order Management Act is a general law, but there are supposed to be rules and regulations. Because we don't have rules under the Public Order Management Act, the police has given itself excessive powers. They act as if they have the power to ban political meetings. The draft regulations are there, but the government has said they first need to meet the National Security Committee or National Security Agency, I think, and it has taken more than 2 years. These are very disappointing to us who believe in dialogue. We believe that when you agree on something, it should be implemented. We also want the Uganda government to fund the IPOD Secretariat, and in principle it was agreed. So that is another decision which needs to be implemented so that we get our independence from the donors also, the way it is in Malawi and Kenya. IPOD has offered technical support to political parties. Technical support means parties are trained on basic organizational management issues. Many people have political parties, but they should know that a political party is a public institution, and therefore it must run as an accountable organization. So that requires that you must have the ability to take decisions in line with your constitution. You must have the ability to manage and resolve conflicts. You must have the ability to be accountable in financial terms. You must have the ability to communicate. So IPOD was able to help political parties have people known as political party capacity strengthening coordinators. These were technical people who were paid for, and they were stationed in the headquarters of all the political parties. IPOD paid for accountants in all the political parties so that parties can have good bookkeeping and accounting practices. IPOD organized the trainings I've talked about. Now, through the meetings of the IPOD organs, proposals were made to Parliament on electoral reforms. These were tabled. Unfortunately, the NRM was uncooperative in pushing those electoral reforms. Another achievement of IPOD is that members of political parties have traveled abroad on exchange visits to see how other political parties are organized. Parties both in opposition and in government. These trips have been in Africa and also in North America and Europe. IPOD continues to provide technical support in terms of knowledge. For instance, through our partners, the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, we have been able to develop gender policies. A book was published known as Dancing Backwards in High Heels, basically about the challenges that women face in politics. That's what you would call soft support for policy development. Through IPOD, parties have been supported and facilitated to develop manifestos. IPOD has also supported political parties to hold meetings of their organs. The failure to implement decisions, that is the biggest challenge we face in IPOD. The failure to implement electoral reforms, that was one big problem. The second problem is the issue of the Public Order Management Act. Under the IPOD summit, we agreed that the government should speed up the enactment of rules under the Public Order Management Act. The Public Order Management Act is a general law, but there are supposed to be rules and regulations. Because we don't have rules under the Public Order Management Act, the police has given itself excessive powers. They act as if they have the power to ban political meetings. The draft regulations are there, but the government has said they first need to meet the National Security Committee or National Security Agency, I think, and it has taken more than 2 years. These are very disappointing to us who believe in dialogue. We believe that when you agree on something, it should be implemented. We also want the Uganda government to fund the IPOD Secretariat, and in principle it was agreed. So that is another decision which needs to be implemented so that we get our independence from the donors also, the way it is in Malawi and Kenya.